a lot of personal work. And since then, I've decided to spend a lot of next part of my life, not only being an entrepreneur, but also sharing what I've found about what it is that makes you a better entrepreneur, and what it is that you need. What are this mindset that we're talking about that is required and why it's important. And we'll start, a lot to talk about EQ, emotional quotient versus IQ, and just from a very basic standpoint today, and how that affects entrepreneurs. So I'm very privileged to be here with you to share some of these ideas in terms of what I've actually learned out there. And so we'll talk later. So thank you, Ivan.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks. So are we ready now for the video? Okta?
Okay, we're ready. Ready?
Okay, go ahead. Share the video.
Okay. Wait.
Greetings to all entrepreneurs. Today, I would like to formally recognize the Global Entrepreneurship Week 2020. It is a time to appreciate entrepreneurs in Indonesia and around the world who change our lives for the better. Entrepreneurship has been a source of countless ideas which were translated into products and services to enhance the quality of life and lead the economic growth. Our Global Entrepreneurship Index in 2019 ranked 75 out of 137 countries. It went up significantly from rank 94 in the previous year. It shows that Indonesia's entrepreneurial level has the potential to excel. Owning a business is certainly rewarding, but it is not without challenges, particularly during this pandemic. The government of Indonesia is committed to making it easier for all Indonesian business to grow by reducing costs and providing them with the support they need. One of which is by super tax deduction. We hope this policy could strengthen our entrepreneurial ecosystem. On behalf of the government of Indonesia, I invite all Indonesians to join me to celebrate Global Entrepreneurship Week. Hopefully, this event would be an opportunity for all entrepreneurs to connect and initiate more collaborations in the future. Thank you.
That was the quick ministerial message for the Global Entrepreneurship Week 2020. As you said, that we are celebrating now worldwide. And let's begin our workshop for today and tomorrow. Once again, I remind you that this is going to be a two-day workshop, interactive workshop. So I wish that all participants can also actively participate by not only listening, but also asking questions or whatever you think that is not really clear for you. So feel free to ask questions. You can write your questions in the chat box, or if you want to speak, then you can raise your hand. Also, I would like to ask your cooperation for the housekeeping rules to mute yourself, to mute your microphones, but feel free to have your camera on. Without further ado, now I would like to ask Mark, as he mentioned already in the beginning, about what he does a little bit. Our workshop is going to be about entrepreneurship education. And for many, still think that entrepreneurship actually belongs to business or economic subject because it is about business creation. But this is actually not 100% true for us, for me, and for Johannes, because we know that entrepreneurship is actually for everybody, for all subjects. And entrepreneurship education has to be taught as early as we possibly can, already at the primary school level, not to teach them how to create business so early, but actually to develop the so-called creativity and innovative mindset among the students. Now, some of you are probably here teachers or lecturers. This workshop shall also help you to understand the methodology, how to basically be inspiring for all your students. Because if you yourself as an educator do not have the so-called entrepreneurial mindset, then you cannot expect your students to acquire the entrepreneurial mindset. Because as a lecturer or as a teacher, you have to become the so-called enabler rather than just a teacher. Because a teacher will teach. There is a transfer of knowledge there involved. But entrepreneurship learning is not only about transferring knowledge, but also inspiring students or others for them to be able to develop the right mindset. Now, what it is, I would like to ask my friend Mark to elaborate a little bit on that for a few minutes, just as introductory, how important it is to have the right mindset before we actually talk about, for example, the curriculum itself that Johannes will elaborate in a little while. So Mark, screen is yours. Share what you think is important for us to know.
Is this the time for my quick presentation or not, without doing any of the examples, Yvonne?
Go ahead, whatever you think is important for you to share. Go right ahead.
Okay. Hi. One of the things, and just before I start to share, one of the things about teaching is that and learning is that we never stop learning. And one of the components, or to set up, as Yvonne was saying, about why it's important that we think about entrepreneur mindset as being something that is not something that is just needed to be taught as business. And it's because there are many components to the mindset that is actually required. And one of the things I would like to get across, and I probably don't have the slide here to show, but probably our next tomorrow, we'll just talk about creation in general. How do you create in general? And that's really a broader topic, whether you call it entrepreneurial creation or the creation of what you want to create in your life and the steps and processes for that. And we'll do a little bit about that tomorrow. Today, what I wanted to share with you was just some thinking or thoughts of why it's important to get a framework of how to think about mindset for entrepreneurs. And one of the things I've done recently is I've finally taken a speed reading course. Now, I don't know, just in terms of participants, if you can use the participant raise your hand button, or just show an indication of hands of how many of us have actually taken the speed reading course. I saw Johannes with the thumbs up. Anyone else? Okay. I'm a I've taken many coaching courses, and one of the coaching courses I have taken is Mind Valley, which is actually one of the biggest platforms for speed reading, a platform for personal development in the world. And they are actually out of Malaysia, even though everyone believes that they're out of the United States. And one of the things I learned was that if I could double my reading speed, which I thought was impossible, and still increase my comprehension. And it was a belief I had that it's not impossible to double your speed reading and also double your comprehension. But I just took the course in the last month, and I have done that. I've doubled my reading speed and I've doubled my comprehension. And part of the reason for doing that is that once you start to read quickly, you stop enunciating, you stop verbalizing the word or vocalizing. So when I'm reading at age 7, I think we all were taught, by our teachers, go read to yourself. And so then when you're reading a book, I take my book and I go, when I was a young lad, I studied telegraphy at night and learned to operate a telegraph key efficiently. And so we read at that pace to ourselves all the time, and we read out aloud. But once you double your reading speed and you starting reading faster, you learn that you no longer can vocalize at that speed, and you stop vocalizing. And when you stop vocalizing, your eyes just process immediately. And at that time, you can actually double your reading speed and double your comprehension. Increase your comprehension. And the reason for doing that, and the reason why I tell you the reason why about sub-vocalization, is that you also need to change your belief. And the belief is that you cannot increase your reading speed and you cannot increase your comprehension at the same time. But by changing my belief and actually doing it, I was able to do this. And beliefs is a subcomponent of your mindset, what you believe to be true. So I'm just going to share a little bit about a presentation, and I want you to bear in mind in that story that this is possible. And I challenge all of you to do it. It says, change my life to actually learn how to speed read. I can now read from average of 200 words per minute, 200 to 250 words per minute, and I now read at about 400 and 450. Not all the time, but flexible reading. So I read all the sports that I now read at about 750 because I just scan to get to what I know. And that has saved me almost about an hour of my day from reading. So that's just a change in mindset and something I wanted to talk about, what you can make a difference in just changing one thing about you. I don't seem to have the share screen anymore, guys. Is there any possibility of helping me to be able to share?
Try, Mark.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. All right. Are you able to see?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me just, oops, sorry. I think it's this one. Nope. Are you guys, what are you seeing on my share screen?
I see your PowerPoint slide.
Okay. All right.
You should go to custom slideshow, maybe.
Yeah. It's not allowing me to share that right now. Okay, whoops.
There you go.
Hopefully. Okay, all right, I'll just hopefully just use this here. What I wanted to talk about today was to share with you is EQ versus IQ. And I've done it this way to simply give an understanding of the difference between what most of us are thinking about in terms of knowledge base versus some of the other aspects of that knowledge. That's just myself. Now, most of you probably already know that EQ is the strongest predictor of performance. And in one of the studies, 90% of top performers were high IQ people, emotional quotient people, and just 20% of the bottom performers were high in EQ. So as far as EQ, people with an average IQ, by the way, and this is just in general, outperform those with higher IQs a majority of the time. So a lot of the time we're thinking that we get very smart people, we will be able to get better performance in life. And what the studies have basically shown is that's not true. And Daniel Goleman, who is the founder of, came out with a book in the 1990s and gave us the examples and told us this, they talked about what's the components of EQ. And he says the components of EQ include self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills, which are all very important and which are part of the EQ. And these components outperform straight analytical. Now, one of the things about when you're teaching business education or entrepreneurial education, and this is just in general, I put the layers of what we currently are teaching. We're teaching strategies, skills, and processes. And some of this you've seen this in the previous presentation I had. And the strategies and the skills like value creation, which are very important, or product market fit, and the processes. However, I believe at the bottom layer, we need to teach also mindset or psychology. So not only do we have to teach all of these other things, but mindset or psychology is important because we just showed that this is what drives performance more than the knowledge base. And so I challenge you to start thinking about 3 things that make an important difference for entrepreneurs in your teaching. And one is that personal development is important for entrepreneurs as a whole. When we talk about it and talking about people teaching, and there currently is really no personal development factor or mindset development in there. Because when we're talking about personal development, we're really talking about development of the mind. We're not talking about development of the body. And that I'm going to introduce to you 2 other concepts that we need to focus on teaching about activities that focus on the conscious and subconscious level, and that we need to teach people to have a growth mindset as a belief. And hopefully, as teachers, we now understand that. And this is just a little bit about teaching, teaching about social components in the study. And this is just from a website, CNBC, and that in 2015, there was published in the American Journal of Public Health that found that social and emotional skills are the biggest predictors of success. And they found that that the more emotionally competent kids were in kindergarten, the more likely they were to go to college and be employed full-time at age 25. So if you took people who were in kindergarten and measured their emotional quotient or how emotionally competent they were better off at age 25. And if they were low in how to process their emotions, and so all the time we're teaching about brain, but not bringing in like these emotional components, they were at risk of dropout. And then just because they even go to high school, university, which a lot of you are teaching, another study showed that over 60% of them were emotionally unprepared and were likely to receive poor academic performance and negative college experience because they weren't emotionally prepared for university. So at all levels, preparing people on an emotional basis is also important. Now, this is a slide that I put into here that very few people, I just learned really about this, that almost all our activities, we always think is in our mind, which it is. And we always are training our conscious mind, our awareness, our analytical skills, our thought processes. But over 95% of what we do comes from our subconscious mind. And I put in the subconscious mind the things like emotions, beliefs, values, and self-image. And these are the things on learning about emotional awareness that becomes more important for teaching. Now, we look and we see that we actually have 5 brain core networks. And part of them is thinking. And most of our thoughts are around our thinking network. And that's all we're teaching, mainly. But it's very important in looking at the other things that we teach: imagination, the motivation, emotion, and their salience network is their compassionate network or a love network. So these are very new in understanding of how the brain works. We used to think there was only a left brain and right brain network, and now they're finding there are many core brain networks, and there are several. This is just 5 of them, but these are the 5 main core brain networks. And we spoke about one of the most important things is that a growth mindset, and I challenge you in terms of reading or understanding, is the difference between people who are open to a growth mindset is that we can do almost anything we want to be able to do. And this again versus a fixed mindset, which is we're fixed intelligence, we have grown, we've been born with an artistic ability, we've grown with a certain amount of intelligence, we've been born with a certain athletic ability, we've been born, etc., with a certain limited things. And what we're finding out is that that's actually not true. It's just that we haven't learned enough yet about it, how to do things. And so I challenge you to read a little bit about growth mindset. I think this will change what you think about yourself and what you do in life. Stuck. Sorry. There we go. The difference of people who, and why it's important to teach growth mindset, is that people with a fixed mindset, what's important about entrepreneurs is to be able to take risk and challenges, and people with a fixed mindset do not do that. They lack effort. They have a tendency to be not resilient. They have inability to set and achieve goals, and they cannot listen to constructive feedback, or they're not coachable. And that probably was the biggest thing I found with a lot of people or entrepreneurs. If they're just not willing to listen or get constructive feedback, they're not able to proceed as good entrepreneurs. And so it's very important that they have that ability or skill. And this is something that we will talk about later. 3 things you can do to help people in their emotional skills. One is to validate feelings, coach to manage emotions, and it's a LALA, which we'll talk about later after Johannesburg, if we can do it an exercise, and allow them to feel uncomfortable. And that's it for me now. And then if we have time later, we can do a little experiential exercise of how to coach people about what I call the LALA exercise, or coach them and about their emotional capabilities. Ivan?
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. So with that, I would like now to move to Johannes. First of all, Johannes, before you go into the deep detail, maybe you can also say a few words about what Mark just said about mindset. Screen is yours. You are still muted, Johannes. Okay.
Maybe I like to say, show 5 slides where I also bring this connection with the mindset. First, maybe I like to stress the point, what is entrepreneurship education? Just to stay inside the entrepreneurship education understanding. Do you see my slide? Yeah. When we speak about entrepreneurship education, I think it's important to understand what does it mean to be an entrepreneur. And very often, the understanding of an entrepreneur is just an entrepreneur is a business person. In our understanding, an entrepreneur is someone who knows how to participate with own ideas in the society and to know how to realize it. It's a much wider interpretation. If we want to have a whole generation of people who know to create ideas and to realize how to can participate, you need this kind of people in all areas of the society. And in fact, it is also the definition from Schumpeter who created the term entrepreneur and made it popular. When we speak about entrepreneurship, I think we can speak it about 2 perspectives. There's one perspective where I would say these are the elements of entrepreneurship. The element is that you know your own potential. Based on that, you can see opportunities or you create opportunities and you develop ideas with value. You know how to take risks. You know the important resources, what you will need to realize an idea, and you bring ideas in action. The second perspective is how you are doing this. Is it because you want to develop the mindset? Is it because you have a mindset and you want to support the process orientation, or you give people a method who are working inside in our organization, how they can do this in that way? So we see entrepreneurship education has very different places where it will take care. There is the key aspect, what we see very often is venture creation programs. But when you want to have a venture creation program, you normally need to do something in advance. That there is a learning to become entrepreneurial, to develop an entrepreneurial mindset. Some of us have the privilege that they are learning this at home in the family. In Europe, we say 10 up to 15% of the population is learning this in the family because they give them the frame to develop this kind of mindset. When you offer a venture creation program, they fit inside. If you do not have this kind of socialization at home, you need to think, how can I support this development systematically inside the education system or maybe also outside the education system? And we say, okay, there are 3 aspects of entrepreneurial education. There is a core entrepreneurial education that you learn how I can create new ideas and how to bring them in action. There is a second one, it's about this culture and it's connected with the mindset. And the third one, that we are not doing this just for us, we are doing this for the whole community. And to bring this, why is it important for entrepreneurial learning, important for youth? I like to show this with soccer. When you want to have people who are playing soccer in a very good way, you're not starting with 17 or 18. And you're not doing only techniques. You're also doing something with the mindset of the soccer players, because it's a good combination. And normally you start when they are much more younger. When you really see that they can develop the technique and they can develop the mindset. It's a combination of both. And I had the most crazy sport in my country is ski jumping. It's a popular sport. And the best ski jumper ever, when he was asked, when he jumped more than 200 meters, was it risky to jump 200 meters? He gave a very, very interesting answer. He said, oh, it was not risky to jump 200 meters. It was more risky when I was 3 years old and I jumped only 2 meters because I didn't have the correct mindset and I didn't know the correct techniques. When I was jumping 200 meters, I had the whole mindset development behind me, and I know all the techniques. Therefore, it was for me normal to do this, and I could take this risk. And I think it's important to see this. When we want that someone is taking larger risks, is doing larger projects, he needs to start small, and he should have the possibility to develop the mindset. And when we are doing this workshop, for us, it is therefore a major important that we think about which kind of value do we want to create with an entrepreneurship program. And there will be quite different answers. When I'm doing this in primary school, my value will be, I like to increase the self-efficacy of the kids. The self-efficacy means, oh, they like to learn that I'm able to do something. And this is a combination of a development of mindset and of some skills. When you have a startup program, you like to create another value. But if the people do not have the correct understanding or mindset, you will probably have a problem with the creation of this value, because you are starting with the people with the basics what they have, and if they do not have the correct basic, you need to start a bit earlier, or you need to start with more basic things before you jump in larger startup programs. I think that was the first point what I like to bring. I hope it's fine.
Thank you, Johannes. I was just thinking about this soccer thing. Yes, you are right. If you want to be a good soccer player, you can't just start, in senior high school playing soccer and then you'll be the famous soccer star in just a few years. But you actually need to play from very early childhood on and get familiar with all the, tips and tricks. Now, back to entrepreneurship education. Unfortunately, I must say, in many countries, people start learning entrepreneurship primarily when they focus on business creation, perhaps at the university level. And many of the students in college, they never had any, I would say, exposure to entrepreneurship education before when they were in primary or secondary school. So according to your observation, or even probably idea, do you think that these people would likely not be successful as an entrepreneur when they start so late? Or they can be successful, but I would say mediocre successful. They will not be extremely successful. And then on the other hand, my other question is, if you start so early at primary school level learning about entrepreneurship education, what makes the difference by the time you reach, let's say, college age in terms of your mindset development? So what do you say?
I think first I'd like to answer the question with the students at the university level. I think when we work at the university level with students, you normally work with a selected group of students. When you work with a selected group of students, you have the opportunity that they have the entry requirements, because very often they have coming from a family background where they get this kind of socialization at home. When you work with a larger group of students at the university, then you will realize that a lot of them do not have this entire requirement. And it's not enough that you just learn them some important skills, some important methods, and they are able to develop a very nice model and a business plan, but they have a lack of their own mindset. They are not empowered enough for this field. And you normally do not learn this kind of mindset, and you have not the chance to develop it in a very short program. In our experience, you need a longer time to develop it. And based on research, we know it's relatively easy to develop this when you are very young. Because when you are very young, you are developing your proactivities and your self-efficacy. And when you support this, then you should have later on a positive entry requirement for larger projects, for larger activities. And that's the reason why we are doing this. And I think that the soccer is just a picture to show this. In sport, it's so normal for us to understand this, that with 18, you are not make a click and you're immediately a good soccer player and you have the correct mindset. And with ski jumping, which is a more crazy sport where you need really a long time that you are learning the technique and the mindset, because jumping 50 meters is quite a challenge. Jumping 5 meters is a challenge. And you see how they can develop them over the time. And I think it's important when you want a development of people who know how to participate in this society with own ideas and with the realization. They need also to have the requirement of a growth mindset, where they see, I'm able to do this. And this is connected also with a culture aspect, because in some countries, we see they have the privilege that that everybody believes that he can do all and everything. And in some countries, we see that the society, sometimes some parts of the religion, do not empower you in this direction. Therefore, that's quite a more intensive fight to fight against this tradition that someone is just a part of a larger thing and his own individual ideas are not so important. I think therefore it's important to see how we are able to develop this. And we made a research between 2015 up to 2018 with 30,000 kids and youngsters. Therefore, I think we know some aspects how to do this. And therefore, we are fostering this. And I think it is an important aspect when you really like to have an ecosystem of the next generation of entrepreneurs, that you need to do this.
Well, Johannes, one thing I have been waiting for you to mention, which you haven't, and that is talent or trait. Yeah, that some people say you need to have trait in order to be, good soccer player. If you're not born with that trait, no matter how hard you practice, you will not be as good as, those great soccer players. What do you say about talents and traits?
Because the aspect of talent is something what is supportive. And when you have the correct body for soccer, it makes it a bit more easier to be a good soccer player. But it is not an automatism that it works like that. I think Jamaica isn't that the country where you have these perfect runners? And you had this Olympic winner who said,
yes,
I have a body which is, yeah, and I have a body which is normally not a runner body. And where he was explaining, it did only work out for me because I had an ecosystem where running is so positive, and therefore I started to run very early, and I was able to create this good combination of mindset and body development, although his talent, his gains would be not automatically the perfect for running. Some other people would have more privileged runner bodies or like that. But of course, I think we know in the field of music, some people have a very, very good music understanding and have a voice. That's something where you maybe are not able to create an opera singer with each person, but you can learn everybody the fun of music and some ways how he can make music. And therefore, I think we should not believe that talent is a selector. It is a supporter when you have some talents. But it doesn't say that you are not allowed to make music, that you are not a person who is able to create ideas and to realize it. I think it would be the same when we say, oh, if you do not have a family which gives you a socialization where you are learning this in the family when you are 2, 3, or 4 years old, then later on you cannot learn this anymore. We know every person, also with 80 years, is able to learn this. It is a bit more difficult when you had 75 years where everybody was saying you are not able to learn this and so on, that someone is empower you that you are learning this. But it is possible to do it. But it's maybe needs a bit more intensive programs than when you have this privilege that the entry requirements are supportive.
Okay. Now, before we talk about successful entrepreneurs like Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg, let's talk about the soccer players again, you know, like Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo. Do you think that these great soccer players, or for example, like Michael Schumacher, yeah, the F1 car race driver, what makes them so successful? Is it because they practice very hard for numbers of years, plus they have a talent and the right mindset, or maybe just a combination of two?
In fact, I think there are some more elements in the play that you are getting that successful. I like to bring a picture from Picasso. Picasso had also some students who learned with him to be painters. And someone asked him, a French journalist, oh, you like to create some new Picassos? And he said, oh, there's a misunderstanding. When you are learning to paint, you should bring someone the passion to paint. And if I am able to give them some techniques and the passion to paint, then I'm successful. If they ever get so successful like Picasso, this is not my objective, because I had the privilege that I was in the right time, in the right place, and I did know the right people, networking at an environment which was privileging that my idea is good for this time. These are some other aspects. Some people have great ideas, but they are not in the right time. They are not in the right place. Therefore, it's difficult for them to get the next Bill Gates and so on. Therefore, I think these are aspects which we also have to see. But I think it's not the really important aspect. I think it's a really privileged situation when you bring to the people a good life, that they know I have ideas, I'm able to realize this. This makes your life much more finer. Then in contrast that you're always waiting someone else is creating something where you get a work based on that. It gives you a nicer perspective for your whole life. And I think that's the important aspect. And it gives also a positive perspective for the whole community, because the community, when they know we have several people in our community who are willing to stand up and take over leadership when there is a problem, to bring a solution, that's a super community. And I think that we have to see this is also entrepreneurship. When we support people that they are able to solve problems in an active way and not waiting that someone else is doing this. These are, in fact, the real heroes, the real Bill Gates. Bill Gates was in a good time and he was able to do this in a great way, but he was also doing this on a very, very large market. When you are not working on a market like that, probably it's really difficult to be ever comparable like that.
Okay, I'll get back to you on that one. Mike, do you concur or you have a different opinion on that? Mike, Can you hear me?
Sorry, I wasn't quite sure if I was there. I also concur with Johannes on his point of view. And we seem to get caught up to being able to say whether we can create. Do you need to have talent to create the next Bill Gates or Zuckerberg? And I think that's a completely different question than whether or not we can create 2 to 3% of the population to be good entrepreneurs. And so in a country like Indonesia with 270 million people, that's 2.7 million people if it's only 1% of the total population. Can we create 2.7 million businesses or entrepreneurs? I think the answer is yes. Can we create, out of those 2.7 million, can we create one Bill Gates? Probably. There's probably someone with enough talent and time and all the things that are required. Or, or Thailand, Thailand, I think, is 60 million people. 1% is 600,000 people that are entrepreneurs. Can we do that? Yes. Can we create a society that has 100% of us has the attitude of creating our life? Because that's what entrepreneurship is about, creating businesses, but it's a subset of creating what you want to do with your life. How do you create things? How do you manifest in the world? Can we teach manifestation, which is a much larger or broader topic? And I believe we can teach manifestation 100%. About manifestation, and to teach that so that everyone, whether it's creating a business or creating the life they want to live, it's all part of the creation of who or what you want to be. And I go back to even just creating the ability of what it takes to create, whether it's talent. We go back to Michael Jordan, the great basketball player, probably the greatest in the world, or maybe LeBron. But Michael Jordan will tell you that, he didn't even make his high school basketball team when he tried out. He didn't have the talent. He was the manager of the basketball team when he first went to high school. And his brothers were taught to be much more talented than Michael Jordan. But through his work and hard work, he was able to get there. And become a great basketball player. And it was just through a lot of hard work and teaching. And so, yes, he may have had the talent, but it took a lot of hard work from high school onwards for him to become a great basketball player. So I'm with Johannes in saying, I'm not to be caught up with the question of whether you can become an entrepreneur or not. I think it's a fact that we can teach a mindset of entrepreneurship. I think we can teach people to create businesses. I think, though, whether or not that person then goes on to become the next billionaire or multi-billionaire, that's probably has the combination of being extremely talented, lucky, and had the ability, the right teachers, and a whole host of other things that creates that.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Now, I want to jump back to Johannes now, a little bit on the technical. In Europe, they said that you have start learning entrepreneurship as early as in primary school and then secondary school. What is it that you learn actually at that level? Johannes, if you can share with us a little bit, maybe how the European curriculum looks like when entrepreneurship actually becomes the essence of the entire education when we talk about mindset development.
I can do this. First, I'd like to share that when you want to do this with young kids, we say we have 2-3 ground aspects which are important for the way how you like to organize this. There is one which we call it's the way how you like to organize the learning. And we believe that it's successful when you have a learner-centered approach, where the teacher and the learners takes over a different position in contrast to classic learning. It doesn't mean that all the time you need to do this in that way, but if you really like to support this entrepreneurial way of learning, then you should do this in some parts of the curriculum and in some classes. That's one aspect. Another aspect where we see that it's quite successful and it's needed is to support mindfulness. We have a lot of students, a lot of learners who have problem to be focused on some aspects, and therefore we are supporting mindfulness learning. These are two basic aspects, and based on that, we have created a couple of different activities. We call this now entrepreneurial challenge-based learning, and this means that a challenge is a more student control activity, and you give them something where they can increase. For primary school, some of these challenges sounds for people who are adult are very small, but the kids are small, and therefore the challenges should be adequate for them, and then they should increase with them. Here you see it, how in the structure it works, that you're starting with something small and you're increasing, and when you're doing the next time a challenge, then you will do it automatically in a different way. It's an experience-oriented way of learning. We have focused over the time some categories of challenges, which we are supporting in primary school and in secondary schools. And you see them, they are in the field of how to create an idea and how to realize an idea, in the field of empowerment, and in the field that you are doing something for the community. Based on that, we created a program for the primary school and for students between 10 up to 15. In the primary school, we are using a small mouse, which is together with the kids and is supporting them when they are creating, and empower each child and empower each youth. Here you see several of these categories for the primary school, and just to bring out 3 of them as an example. We have several of them in the field of idea creation. There is one that kids are learning how I can create ideas in combination with growing a plant. And we are using strawberries because they are popular in my country. And the kids are learning how to support that. Strawberries are growing when they are 8 years old. And they learn what can we do with strawberries and which kind of value can we create with strawberries. It's really popular, it's easy, and it's easy for the kids to understand this. Another challenge what we have is called the trash value challenge. It's a very popular challenge, and it's the art teachers are doing this, and kids are learning that they are able to create value with art. They reflect which kind of value they are able to create. For instance, they realize when I'm painting a picture, I can create a value that my grandparents are really happy when I'm painting each week a picture for them. And that's a possibility what I can give them. And that's another challenge. And another challenge which maybe I like to show is the community challenge, which we call, it's a Wilma. We are learning by doing. It's an inventor club. In the inventor club, kids are looking for problems and are creating ideas how to solve a problem and up to a small prototype. They are a bit older when they are doing this, and it's a really popular inside and outside schools. It's a lot of youngsters are doing this, that they see we are creating the solutions for the futures. That's something what teachers in primary school are also willing to do. They are not so happy with strong business focus. And also the parents very often are not so happy when you would support a strong business focus. We have some business focused challenges, but the more complex component in this age group is that the kids are realizing I'm able to create an idea and I'm able to realize how to do it. That's much more when they are learning this. The business aspects, some of them they are included and some of them you can later on include too. I hope this answered the questions a bit and I'm not going too deep.
Thank you, Johannes. Tony, you have a question.
Okay. I have one question because I always talk with the school in Thailand. And one of the first question is how we gonna teach the student what, because normally we have a lot of subjects like mathematics, English, we have to study science, and how can put entrepreneurship in every day, or how long you have to teach in a week. How European school divide the time to teach entrepreneurship. And because actually our Minister of Education, we don't have this subject. So I have to find a time and then they have to do it. Or but when I go to Indonesia, I think they have something like integrated into some other subject together, put like a project to build a project with the entrepreneurship mindset. How you start with the school, how you gonna talk with the school.
Okay, I think when I say this answer now, I cannot say it's a whole European one because European countries, we have a couple of different education systems. I can say that several European countries are doing this like that. I think in primary school, we have just one syllabus. Normally we have one teacher who is working with the kids in the age between 6 up to 10, in some country up to 12. Okay, subjects in for this age group, therefore, are just an orientation for the parents. For the teacher who is working with the kids, he always sees the holistic approach. That's the reason why we were adding to some of the subjects entrepreneurial challenges, and that the red line between it is this small animal, that the kids know, oh, now we are doing something in this orientation. That's the way how we were doing it. In the syllabus, in our syllabus, it is a so-called transversal topic, and the transversal topic is connected with some subjects. It's a part in our syllabus. It's something that's existing in our country. The same we are doing in the lower secondary school. There we have also only one syllabus. When we go to secondary level between 15 up to 19, it's getting a bit more challenging because in this age group, we have 500 different syllabuses in our country. We have a very diverse structure, therefore diverse solutions. We have some schools who have a subject entrepreneurship. These are schools, sometimes they're investing up to 12 hours per week in the field of entrepreneurship. It's quite a lot. And then we have some of them, they do not have this time possibility. They are including it in different subjects, and maybe they have something like they call a project week per year, where they have an intensive project work, a week where they are working a week on entrepreneurial projects, and then they have one or two subjects during the year where they have some combinations and it's connected with that. You see different arrangements because the syllabuses are very diverse, and they have different opportunities how they can implement it. And we have also to see there is a development of stages. When you would ask me the same question, 1996, when I started to work in this field, I would also say, oh, we have no entrepreneurship at all in the syllabus. 1997, we had the first time entrepreneurship in some syllabuses. 2004, we had more, and 2014, we have now really a lot of entrepreneurship in different subjects and as an own subject. 2024, when we will get the next generation of syllabuses, there will be, again, an increase of entrepreneurship. Therefore, I think it's also a question of the stage. When you start, it is, in my opinion, it is the coolest when you are able to start that you implement it in some subjects, in 2, maybe in 3. This would be very fine. Because when you have a group of teachers, 2 or 3, who could work together, it's an illusion that you can immediately start with your own subject. This would be only possible if you have really a strong political, supportive organizations, persons who say that's a political decision, therefore we are doing this. But in the beginning, it's quite seldom that you have this kind of political support. Tony, you want to ask a question?
Okay, I understand. But do you have any school in your country that they call themselves as entrepreneur school, entrepreneur primary school, entrepreneur high school? Do they have that?
Yeah, we have that. This was a development over the years. We didn't start with that automatically. We have entrepreneurship certified schools. These are schools who have a whole concept, many different subjects, but this is not something where you are starting normally. That's something where you have a couple of teachers who are empowered with entrepreneurship, and you want to bring it in a better structure inside your institution. And that's an important aspect, because entrepreneurship teachers are teachers who get principals in other schools. And when you are losing this energy in your school, therefore you need to find, how can I bring this in a better structure? And in this certification process, we see, okay, what kind of things you are thinking about activities with the teachers, which are the learning activities, and how the organization is taking care of that. In December, the UNESCO will publish a publication about entrepreneurship education, where I was creating that with them together. It's about the entrepreneurial learning institution canvas, how an institution can get more entrepreneurial learning insights the institution program. It's exactly an entrepreneurship school, how a school get more entrepreneurial, and there are different stages of development. In this publication, you will have in the beginning clarifying what is entrepreneurship, then a self-assessment where the institution takes a look in which area we are fine and which area we need to do something. And then you have this entrepreneurial learning canvas for the institution. I can show this for you, which aspects they're inside, in my opinion, which are important to take care when you want to develop this. And you never develop, I think there are stages of development. It's quite seldom that you have the resources that you can immediately jump over the development in a very intensive thing. But there is one nice thing, where you have some schools in your country who are entrepreneurship schools, and then teachers are going to these schools and parents and see how they are doing this, then you have the opportunity that some schools immediately make a much more larger jump. Because you need to have schools like that in your region. It was a learning what we had. Because we had in our capital, of course, several entrepreneurship schools, and then we realized, okay, people in the region, they would appreciate to have an entrepreneurship school in the region. Therefore, we supported in each of our region schools that they created to be an entrepreneurship school. And we thought it would be fine to have 9 of them, that as a learning case for all the other ones. But today we have 80. In my whole country, we have only 500 secondary schools. Therefore, it's not such a large number. But in fact, some of the schools are very large. Yeah.
Okay, but let's say when you are in entrepreneur school, right? Normally in Thailand, like the school, they have to compare each other with some of the scoring, like mathematics scoring or something like English scoring. But when you say you are entrepreneurship school, you need to have a new scoring method to work with the entrepreneurship school. It's not the KPI that you can. How you gonna tell that this is a good entrepreneurship school? What is the solution? What after they have system in that school? You understand my question?
Yeah, I got it. And I will share my screen just to show this is this entrepreneurial learning institution canvas. And we have 12 areas where a school and an institution need to make decisions. In some areas, they are very important, and in some areas, maybe you do this later. Of course, in the beginning, you need to be clear which kind of value do we want to create. And there are different answers for that. The second one is then for which target group you like to do this. There are different target group in the school. Do you want to do it for the whole school? Do you want it only for the girls? Do you want it only for a group who is handicapped, refugees, or whatever? Then which kind of competences you want to support? We have a clear picture in my country where we believe which competences are important for that. And therefore you make the selection of that, you select all of them, okay. Then you see the curriculum approaches, and there are existing several different curriculum approaches. There's not just a one-way solution. It's a question how your institution can fit in. We have some countries where you have full-day schools. For them, it's really easy to integrate new learning areas, particularly when they are active-oriented. And in some countries, the time restrictions are much more larger. Therefore, there's not a one-way solution. Then you think about which are the key activities which you like to bring in. Some of the key activities you have in your school, but not for all students. Some teachers are doing maybe some key activities and the other one are not doing this. And then you have to think, how can I support that all students get in touch with these key activities, and that I add some other one which are maybe important. And so this is a structure, it's a workshop where I think you need 2 days at minimum, that you get out a concept, how you could start and how you can grow and how you can jump to the next stage. And of course, there's one, as you mentioned, is the assessment. We have some countries where the assessment is quite a challenge. Maybe I bring a country which is far away from Asia, it's South Africa. They have in each subject, each year, a central assessment. It's a multiplier test. It's very knowledge oriented. And of course, this is a problem when you have this knowledge oriented testing culture, because it's damaging an entrepreneurial learning way. So you have to find an arrangement how maybe in this area we can do a different kind of assessment. It doesn't mean that there are not existing possibilities how you can make a nice assessment. And so on. These are some aspects which are inside. Tony, you have another question.
I think this is just draft idea for internet. I want you to go ahead with your content, because most of the Thai audience today, they are looking for some solution. So yesterday I already talked about trio model, and then I want to see the solution. I want to see the lesson plan, something like that. That this is what you start to teach. Yeah.
Maybe to say when we start to work with a school, we see normally that when we speak about the value, we also like that the teachers think, maybe we make a small exercise. Do you see the slide value proposition? Do you see it? Yes?
Yeah, can see.
Yeah, good. Okay. This should not work. Good. Good. Ladies and gentlemen, please make this make a full screen on your computer. When you're doing a full screen, then in Zoom you have the possibility that you see the menu where you can make the sounds you can stop the video, security, how many people are participating, and then you have the a point where it's written, you can write down commenters. You can make a comment. And there you find out that you can also write down something. And everybody can do this. Which value do you want to generate with entrepreneurship? And I think that's the basic thing which you have to decide in the beginning. Which value, for instance, good life for the kids, for the youngsters. And I think it's important to see that you get a common mission in your institution. What is important for you? Because based on that, then you can also think, which kind of activities do we need that we are bringing this in life? When you do not have a common mission, it's really difficult to generate a program for that. Therefore, it's important to have a clear message why you want to include entrepreneurial learning in your institution. In the beginning, there will be only a small number of teachers in the pilot phase who are able to give an answer for that. And then this pilot teacher will cooperate. But later on, the group should be larger. Otherwise, you will never increase the program inside an institution. Ivan, maybe you'd like to type something too. How can you do this once more? When you make a full screen, then you go up to the computer and you see there are different, there's the menu, and in the menu you have one point, it's called, I can make a commenter. And when you go on that, you see there's the mouse, you can write a text, you can paint something, you can stamp something, you can change colors and so on. And so everybody can also write down something. Do you find it?
Actually, no, because I'm on full screen already, but I don't see the menu.
When you go to the menus up to the computer in so high as possible, then the menu is going up.
Okay. Because I'm already seeing your screen, but I don't see any menu.
When you go to the end of the computer, then the menu is jumping. Then it's open the menu.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing.
And there is one point which is called, you can write down a commenter. And when you push on this, click commenter, then it's open up. You can use the mouse, you can use the text, you can paint something. I'm painting. And you can paint something.
Johannes, I think that's only available in when you're in host to be able to share your screen.
Everybody can use it. Everybody can use it. I've used this quite often in lectures with students.
No, I'm a host, but I can't do anything. I
think everybody can use it. The commenter, you can go on the text, and when you're on the text, you can write down. Okay, if it doesn't work, but in fact, this would normally work in Zoom. That's the nice thing, that you can cooperate in Zoom with some aspect, that you can write down things, and so we can cooperate. Maybe we will try it later, Ivan, that we can use it tomorrow. Maybe I like to show when you, as a team in the school, think about, okay, we like to have a common value for entrepreneurial learning. Which kind of values are possible? And I can show you the values which we see, which schools are selecting. Oops. Okay. Yeah. You see, we see 3 reasons for value. There is one value which we call person development. It's particular for younger kids. There is the experience of self-efficacy, the life on own dreams. There are some schools, they call them dreamer schools, where kids are learning, they have dreams and how to realize dreams. It's a very nice approach, how you can do this with very young kids. Some schools, they are doing this because they like to increase the motivation of the kids. Because they see that some of the kids have a lack of motivation, and they're doing this. Some schools, they say it's like soccer. They like to foster young talents and to support the development of the talents. These are the person development values. Then we have economic development. The first, as some of you know, I'm working in Afghanistan with schools together, and for them, the number one is the most important, developing perspective for the future. There we are working in upper secondary schools. The kids are between 16 up to 19, and 80% of them are unemployed after the school. And the school like to develop perspectives for the future. It's very challenging because the school structure is difficult, the number of students is very high, but for the schools, this is a very large development. It's a large value, and a lot of different subjects are willing to participate, and they created their own subject. They created a subject with a lot of hours because they say the school need to develop perspective for the kids. If we are not able to develop perspective for the kids, this is really a catastrophe. In Switzerland, you would see the second value. In Switzerland, there is a colleague who says, for the whole school, the self-entrepreneur becomes the leading figure. And there's written TVET because 80% of the youngsters in Switzerland between 15 up to 19 are in TVET schools. And they say that's the future of the TVET. The other explanations are explanations which are more economically, very seldom schools are selecting them, that you are doing this because you need to want to have a very dynamic society, therefore you foster this value. That's not very often selected. But there is another field, a third one, okay, that's you like to have solutors, problem solutors in your school. And this is quite popular. There's a couple of schools, they say, we are SDG schools, Sustainable Development Goal schools. But we are entrepreneurial SDG schools, and we want to make the world a better place. And these are schools very often in the age between 10 up to 14, where the kids are learning how can we create together a better world. And the kids are trying to solve problems. That's a value what a school is selecting. The second one, preparing learners for an uncertain future, is quite seldom selected from a school. The first one, learning how to participate in the society, you find this quite often in schools where they know we have underprivileged students in our school. And our school students do not have a network, the parents do not have a network, they do not know how the society is organized. Therefore, we need to support the kids that they are learning this in a better way. When you have select one of these values, maybe two of them, and the team of teachers know this is something what we really like to reach, that's an important thing, then you go to the next step. But it's important to have this common mission. If you do not have a common mission, it's really difficult that the colleagues in the school say, we are team players. We like to develop the students in the way that they can reach this mission, this aspect. That is one aspect. And then it's going on. The second one is that you, once again, do I really know my target group? And it's really important to know the target group. For when you are making a startup, it's so clear that you think about how can I create a target group and what do I know about the target group. But for the school, it's the same important to know this. Because if you know much more about the target group, then you also can think, how can I create the competences with this target group? And it's important to see, in some schools, you have a very homogeneous target group. In some schools, you have a very heterogeneous target group. And it's important to know this. And I think teachers normally know this, but very seldom they share the experiences. It's important to share this experience and to see these are my personas or my empathy map, where I know a couple of things about the learners. And if I notice things about the learners, then I go to the next step. But I don't like to take over with this too much time now. But this would be a process where I think it's quite nice to go through it. Then to see, okay, which entrepreneurial competences do we like to select? I normally have a map now where you see a couple of competences where I think these are basic competences, and then some competences would be nice to reach them, and you can select them. Particularly in upper secondary schools, you have so diverse different schools. Therefore, it's important to select the competences which are important for that. And some schools can go further than some other one because it's just the origin of the school. When you are an art school, entrepreneurship is perfect for you. This maybe sounds in the beginning not so tremendous for you, but art schools, they like to have someone who is changing the world with art. And this is highly connected with that. Sports schools are also very cool connected with entrepreneurship, because you are doing a lot of mindset work with the learners, and therefore it's easy to add then the entrepreneurial skill aspect. You need not to work anymore with the mindset. In some schools, when you're not working in the mindset, you need to support the mindset development much more than in some other ones. Okay, I hope I was clear, not to making too chaos, but there is not a one-way solution. I can show some aspect of our program where we think that it's successful to use it, and we can also say, based on research, these things are really working when you are implementing it. But the combination is always a decision of the school, and there will be different stages of development. Very seldom a school automatically say, we would like to be the total entrepreneurship school, and they jump in a high developed approach. Because it's also development of the teachers. When I started to work with entrepreneurship, when you ask me in this time that I'm doing so much with the youngsters, I would never believe that it's possible what the youngsters are doing today. But this is something where I get empowered too. I got empowered to do much more with the youngsters than I ever was thinking in the beginning, that it's possible that youngsters are doing this. I think there was some...
Okay.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Tony?
Yes,
the PowerPoint,
yes.
I will share, of
a
course.
lot to learn from you. Not enough time.
Well, unfortunately, we're running out of time, Johannes, and actually we have gone over time. But we will have another workshop tomorrow with Johannes and Mark. So for all participants, this is just the beginning and the introduction to whatever we're going to talk about, entrepreneurship, education, and mindset development. And tomorrow, I hope you can come back and join us again, because we're going to actually do some more exercise that requires also your participation. Mark has some also games for us to play tomorrow. And in the meantime, I thank you all for coming, and thank you for your patience, also to listen. Should you have any questions, feel free to ask, actually. And if not, then we can also talk about any questions you have tomorrow. And I also want to thank you, Johannes and Mark, for being here with us, especially Mark. I know it's very, very early for you. It's now it's almost 5 o'clock in the morning in Canada. So I'm sure you can go back to bed right after this to to make up for the missing sleep that you have, a couple of hours. And Johannes, also thank you. And tomorrow I hope we can discuss more in greater details on what we have touched this afternoon. Yeah. Tony, is there anything that you want to say?
Yeah, I think we have a lot of questions. We can continue tomorrow, because yesterday I have a long session with this discussion, and I think my question is good for everyone, and then we can understand more the whole pictures, because yeah, we want to start, so we need to know a lot of things. Yeah.
Well,
maybe you like to send some of the questions to Ivan, that he can send it to me.
Okay.
Then I can think how I can answer the questions in a nice way for you tomorrow.
Yeah, the biggest one is how we're gonna start, and then they want to see the whole long journey, how we're gonna plan, and then how we're gonna start. Let's say like we are the school, right? And then how we're gonna start the first step, second step. So we want to see the goal, and we want to see a short term and then the long term. I think this is tomorrow. You can work on this, and then let's say like we open the class, the 1 hour, how we gonna start. Yeah, this is all the methodology, but we want to see how we know that this is important.
It's important that you also say which kind of school, which kind of group, how old they are.
I would say primary school. I would say
primary school.
Can start from primary school, because secondary school is can see the same thing, but it's much complex. But we want to see the easiest one. Yeah, you can show any solution. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
We will continue tomorrow.
I'm just wondering, or Johannes, actually, there was a question that was in the chat. I'm not sure if you'd be able to see it or to answer it, from Sandra. Is the entrepreneurship training available online, and which institute is that?
Normally we're doing a lot of entrepreneurship trainings, and normally we are not doing them digital, because I'm a very large fan in entrepreneurship to have live sessions. Now we are doing combinations, and in fact we have some online, but they are not in English. They are normally in German, because we are not used to speak English in my country. But with Ivan, maybe we can figure out that we are doing something together in English. Why not?
Okay, well, normally our training is 1 week long, every day, so 8 hours a day, and then you will get something, yeah. But this webinar is only 90 minutes for 2 days, so you can, imagine how little tiny bit that you will just get from these 2-day workshop. Basically, this is just a foretaste of the real full training sessions that Johannes, Mark, and I used to do for schools. But this is something that we can certainly plan, basically when there are interests from your side to know more. And not to forget also that there are students participating in these webinars, because they are interested also perhaps to think, how should I do, or how should I develop myself in order to be successful in the future after I finish or after I graduate from university? Is it too late for me to be successful entrepreneurs now? This is something that we also need to consider, that not all teachers or educators are here, but there are also students, yeah, or maybe students who will become teachers later, yeah. So this is something that we also need to consider for tomorrow. Once again, thank you very much. I think the Zoom will soon shut us down. So thank you all for participating. I'll see you all again back here tomorrow, 3 p.m. Jakarta time, or 4 p.m. Singapore time, 3 p.m. also in Thailand, 3 a.m. in the morning for Mark, and 8 a.m. in the morning for Johannes, I'm sure. All right, thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.